Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Sommer Thomas alongside DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus here to talk about Week 10 of the NFL and some headlines that have come up. So Ezekiel Elliott's suspension has been reinstated, and he now will no longer be able to play until Week 16 when the Cowboys face the Seahawks. So what do you guys think this does to the Cowboys' playoff chances?
Well, it definitely puts a damper on things, that's for sure. The Cowboys, they're 5-4. They're falling a little bit. We just had that, bad loss to Atlanta. It just goes to show how much of a quality player they need, like someone like Ezekiel Elliott on that team. If they really want to make a shot for the playoffs, they need people to step up. They still have a quality quarterback in Dak Prescott, so that's fine. The offensive line has become an issue. In years past, the Cowboys have had a dominant offensive line. This year, it has not nearly been the same. Chaz Green led up 6 sacks. You can't do that. If you want to win games, you absolutely cannot do that. They need the defense to step up. I just don't see them making it all the way with Ezekiel Elliott out for the rest of the season. Just with all the talent in the NFC there is, the Seahawks, the Panthers, the Lions, they're all vying for those wild card spots too. So in the end, I think it's not going to be enough, but we can see if this Cowboys team is resilient enough to do it.
Yeah, obviously without Ezekiel Elliott, it hurts the Cowboys a lot. Like you were saying, DJ, it's all on the shoulders of Dak Prescott now, so teams really just kind of have to stop him. But if they can find a way to secure that offensive line, to get back to the level they were playing at last year, if you look at their schedule, there is a chance for them to find a way into that wild card spot and maybe win the division, but that'll be a long shot. Obviously, they play the Eagles this week. That's going to be a very difficult game. But going forward, they have games against the Giants and the Redskins and a winnable game against the Raiders, who are very inconsistent, and the Chargers. So there's a lot of winnable games in there. It's a matter of, can they figure out how to win games with just Dak Prescott? So is it possible? Yes, but it'll definitely be a long road.
Speaking of the playoffs, right now the playoff picture in the AFC and NFC is all over the place. So right now, as it stands at the end of Week 10, I have the Patriots #1 in the AFC, followed by the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Bills. What do you guys think of that? And are there any other teams you think are going to creep up? Or?
Well, personally, I believe those are going to be the 6. Even though the Bills are starting to slip a little bit, they had that terrible loss against New Orleans. If they can recuperate and get it back together, they're still a playoff team. It's not a sure thing, though. I'm pretty confident in the other 5, but if one team were to fall out, I would pick the Bills. And there's not that much talent in the AFC that can overtake them. The Raiders are a possibility, but they need to be more consistent. The Dolphins are also a possibility, but you never know with them. And the Ravens really need to step it up on offense if they want to have a chance. So it's not a sure thing, but I think that the 6 teams that are in right now are looking good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are going to be the 6 teams that end up making it. We were talking about the Cowboys just a minute ago. How much would they have loved to be in this AFC conference right now? Because obviously it's far more competitive than the NFC. If they were in the AFC, probably a good chance they make the playoffs even without Ezekiel Elliott. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And looking at the AFC right now, you think the Bills might fall out? I think if anyone's going to fall out of those 6 that Sommer mentioned, I think it's the Titans. I think they're very inconsistent, but it's really a toss-up. I think out of any 2 teams that could enter the playoff fold, I think you're looking at the Raiders and you're looking at the Ravens, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, the Raiders are a very talented team. Derek Carr is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. They have a lot of issues that they need to shore up. But like we were talking about with the Cowboys, if they can figure out those issues quick enough, I think Derek Carr has the capability to lead this team to a wild card playoff berth. And if they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. As far as the Ravens go, I like Joe Flacco and I like John Harbaugh. They have a lot of experience in the postseason. They know how to win when they get there, and I think if they can find a way to win a couple key games down the stretch here, make that late playoff berth, then you never know what could happen in the postseason.
Definitely agree. Now on to the NFC. So right now I have the Eagles as #1, the Saints as 2, Vikings as 3, the Rams as 4, Seahawks as 5, and the Lions as 6. Now, the NFC playoff picture is definitely up for debate a lot more, especially with those last 2 wild card picks. And there are a lot of other teams that could come into the fold, like the Cowboys. So what do you guys think of that 6? And are there any other teams that are going to come up?
I actually think that those are the 6 that are going to make it, but it's not a sure thing, of course. I mean, the Eagles are obviously going to make it. The Saints, the Vikings, and the Rams have looked unstoppable. And, of course, Seattle is just a playoff team. When they get there, they cause destruction. So I think Seattle's going to make it. The 6th spot, yet again, I think is the one that's most contested. And I agree with the Lions because I think Matthew Stafford is a talented guy. and the defense has been stepping up as well. But there are definitely other possibilities. We talked about Dallas. Even without Ezekiel Elliot, I think they still have a decent shot. Carolina is still in the conversation. Cam Newton is as good as any of the quarterbacks in the game, even though the team has looked shaky from time to time. If they can put it together, then they've got a good chance for the playoffs. Atlanta has fallen a little bit lately, but they got a nice rejuvenation with that big win over Dallas, so they're certainly still in the conversation. And even the Redskins at 4-5, they're a game behind everybody else, but if Kirk Cousins can keep playing the way that he's been playing, the Redskins still have a good shot as well.
So I think the Eagles and the Saints are both locks to win their respective divisions. I think they're far and above the superior teams in their divisions, but it's the NFC West and the NFC North that are really interesting to me. Out of the NFC West, I think both the Rams and the Seahawks will make the playoffs. It's all about who is going to win the division and get that home playoff game, right? So as it stands right now, the Rams are the superior team. But if you look ahead at their schedule, they have a really tough schedule coming up. And the Seattle, I know they just lost Richard Sherman for the year. They have a lot of really bad injuries and a lot of problems like a lot of the NFL does. But like I said, if they can get to the postseason, they're a very dangerous team, especially at home. And you do not want to play Seattle at home in the postseason. As far as the NFC North goes, I think it's a two-way competition between the Lions and the Vikings. I think the Vikings are the better team. I think they'll end up winning that division, but I see the Lions getting in as that 6th seed. So that's what I think will happen. But it'll be interesting to see because, like we were saying, there's so much competition in the NFC that anything could really happen.
All right, so now on to some coaches that are in the hot seat right now. There's Chuck Pagano, Ben McAdoo, and Marvin Lewis. What do you guys think about those guys, and how hotly contested are their jobs right now?
I think that Chuck Pagano is the number one name on that list. The Indianapolis Colts have proven that they are nothing without Andrew Luck. They're 3-7, one of the worst teams in the NFL, and even with Jacoby Brissett, who's been doing an okay job as the backup quarterback, they're still not finding ways to win games. And a lot of that comes down to coaching. Chuck Pagano has proven that he is not the guy that they need to call plays for that offense or for that defense. He's just been too weak as a coach, in my opinion, to get the Colts anywhere. If you want to take a look at really what I think is Chuck Pagano's career in Indianapolis, go back 2 years to that Sunday night game against the Patriots on that botched fake punt that Griff Whalen was not supposed to snap that. Obviously communication error right there, and I think that perfectly displays what kind of coaching career Pagano has had in Indianapolis. So if the Colts continue their losing ways, expect Pagano to be out of Indianapolis by season's end.
Yeah, head coach Ben McAdoo is obviously on the hot seat. He seems to have lost the locker room. Chuck Pagano, like you said, again, someone who's probably not going to be looking for another job at the end of the year. Marvin Lewis is really interesting to me because he's the second most tenured coach in the NFL. He's been with Cincinnati for a long time, but I think this is the year that they finally cut him. And if anyone's going to find a job, it's going to be Marvin Lewis as soon as he's gone. But if there's one other sleeper pick that you need to look out for, it's Buccaneers head coach Dirk Cutter. Coming into the season, the Buccaneers looked like they were supposed to be contenders for this division. Hasn't panned out that way, so look for some repercussions at the end of this year.
Yeah, we should definitely keep in mind that Marvin Lewis has not won a playoff game for the Bengals since he has been there in as many years. So that's definitely something to consider when thinking about whether or not he should stay. All right, well, that'll be all for Penn State Sports Night. I'm Sommer Thomas alongside DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus. We'll see you guys next week.